Hello and welcome back to Your Heart's Path. My name is Faye and I'm here today with my beautiful spirit team to bring through a transmission of information, insight and little pockets of wisdom to support you through the month of March. I gotta be frank with you, as I tuned in to do this reading for you, there's a feeling of like a little bit of frustration in my body. It sort of feels like I haven't been sleeping very well. I feel a little kind of like pissed off is almost the feeling I've got. So I reckon we have like a little bit of energy around bladder, around the kidneys, this kind of feeling of just like, all right, I'm kind of fed up with this current experience. For some of you, that current experience that I'm talking about, it's like the page has been turned and you're already experiencing this fresh new energy. For those of you who are in that space where you're feeling just a little flustered, a little flat, I really want to help you shift some of this today with some insight and awareness that's coming through for the future piece. Or what opportunities or how we actually even work with this energy. For those of you that are transitioning into this new beginning and you've got this like a lot of momentum behind you, we're sort of looking at getting really organized right now. I'll try kind of interweave both themes into the reading. My intention is to speak nice and clearly and fluidity and just kind of stay on track. I'll use my cards today in the intention of bringing through the messages that are for your highest good and the highest good of all, knowing that these themes that we experience, please try and approach them symbolically. So when we're reading something symbolically, it just means that it can manifest in multiple different ways depending on how this comes through into your life, and seeing if you can kind of look at this more from your personal lens. So I invite you to almost even imagine that you're kind of stepping into this space, perhaps that you're sitting here with me. You can even grab a cup of tea, set a little intention as to what it is that you want to get out of this collective energy reading, or even just ask yourself why it is that you're here today. And insight is something that can be really powerful and really supportive, especially in this experience where I kind of feel like I want to go to this image that I'm experiencing, and I've kind of been placed right in the middle of this kind of like waking up. The energy has been described. We've got like the insomniacs that are up all night, pacing around, kind of wondering why they can't sleep. And there's a lot of rumination going on in the mind, a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of frantic behavior, which is causing this kind of like pissed offness, a kind of feeling of like unfairness, and what's happening at night time is actually affecting the day-to-day living, because there is just this period of exhaustion. So I feel like we need to get on top of this sleep piece, but some of that kind of comes from, I want to say, how you are taking care of yourself. I kind of feel like there's a connection here when I'm looking at relational energy, how this experience and something else comes in, that right in the middle of that relational energy, we're looking at habits. Habits can even be thought patterns and programs that are on repeat. This can be partly addiction, even obsession, or less than love connections or attachments to certain situations that the universe has kind of been guiding you to let go of, and I'm kind of feeling like a clenching on. And this clenching on kind of comes from this too many fears, too fast, too soon, too much information to digest all in one go. Why do I have to do this all on my own? Why is, and asking these questions that send out this information into the universe, and the universe goes, well, this is why you're pissed off. Well, this is why you feel hard done by. Well, this is why you're struggling with this element. And I think that this insight is really beautiful, but I want you to be really mindful as to what questions you are asking the universe, and perhaps we can start to bring some mindfulness around this, but we sort of want to work with kind of starting to cool things down as well. So there can be a lot of heat associated with this. It's like when the same thing is on repeat all the time, we kind of can't shift something, we get this friction. So the friction is with you and what the universe is revealing to you in your own body and being. based on questions, based on information that has come to light. And now we're kind of in this space where instead of trying to fight this or even change this, we want to look at how we can accept this, how we can best work with this. And so I kind of feel like it's interesting, for whatever reason, they're showing me the bladder and the kidneys again. I kind of feel like there's this place here when I'm looking at the kidneys and I'm zoning in on those. I'm looking for more balance. I'm looking for this space where I kind of want to bring some coolness. As I'm looking at the kidneys, they kind of look like, metaphorically and symbolically speaking, there's like a darkness in there. And I'm going to say we're kind of going into like the deep realms of our own subconscious, our super subconscious. And there are threads here that feel almost like, as I'm unraveling it, like chains that bond us to the past, chains that bond us to particular realities where we actually feel like really stuck and stagnant. And so I feel for you, because I sense there's this like, I really want to shift my life and I don't know how. And so I want to bring some light and some insight into this. And I want to invite you to come into a space of, first and foremost, acceptance. Can you see what happens with the whole body and being? Even how my voice starts to slow down. If we can kind of look at this energy and go, okay, I accept this for what this is. I heard someone say this last year, when I can accept something, I can move beyond it. And that kind of feels like the invitation here, because of the rumination that's taking place, that's affecting even your nighttime, your sleep space, is something that we need to get on top of. These are like those survival pieces in order to bring balance back into the body, where we can bring this into the light. We actually want to see how slowly, how gently, and how open we can be to accepting this experience, so as that we can work with this from not just that soul perspective, which is, what's this teaching me? What's this revealing to me? But really having a look at the patterns of the past that have created this current experience, and not as a punishment, not as karma, not as something you did wrong, but something that's been here to help shape your environment, help shape your experience. That has kind of allowed for you to become the person that you are. And I kind of feel like this is where the softness comes. Like, as I'm embracing this energy from this perspective, not only do I feel the softness and the acceptance, but I see this ability to actually be able to lean in and gain some support here. I kind of feel like it's you holding you from your inner child to your teenage self to the young adult that kind of comes in, and you go, it's like a there kind of energy, like a cooling and a calming down, and this opportunity to surrender the ego, so as that we don't feel victim to the experience, even if you are. And there are things that seem to be outside of your control right now, that there is this opportunity to add lots of support around the whole of your body and your being in each direction that exists, and to come into this space of acceptance, so as that the information that needs to come in to bring that lightness and that balance to the body and the being can do so. And that's what I see coming in through March. They are taking me kind of to the back end of the month, so it might take a few weeks to really sort of just calm down. I accept my reality, I accept this present moment, I accept my circumstances, I accept the news, I accept what I've come to terms with, I accept the truth, but I'm also not bitter. And it's easy to get bitter when we feel frustrated. It's easy to get bitter when things happen in a way that we didn't expect them to, when things turn out in a way that you might not have been ready to. And I also think that this is something that can really help you leap and sort of take some big jumps. It's almost like this feeling of like having a little bit of a timeline shift and a perspective shift, much like the lens of a diamond. You can look in through one space and you can look in through another, and the light and the refraction and the information that comes through is going to be different depending on what angle you approach this from. So I feel this is a new angle that's coming in, whether that's a higher perspective or an alternative perspective. There's something that comes in here if you're able to accept the truth and use your affirmations, sit with the current experience, without force or needing to rush or to have to make lots of decisions. And what you will notice by the end of the month is the feeling of new perspective coming in. And this new perspective offers a distance or a space to be able to begin to elevate your experience, or almost transition or change the vibration of your reality so as that you can see something that looks quite different. That's when they're going to give you more of a future vision. And the future vision is important here because some of this feels like destiny, like there's kind of like a stone-like element to this, like some things are inevitable, and then there is opportunities as to how you move around these points, like the water that flows down the river, how it moves around the rocks, the stones, the logs, how you move around that, which part or what depth of the water you're on, which depth, the depth of your own being, depends on I guess your journey. And I don't know that any layer of the riverbed is better than the other. Closer to the surface, you're going to have more of that connection to kind of just like what is. The further down you go, the more insight, the kind of darker it starts to get. But I kind of know where I'm going here. It's sort of like it just feels different. There's just a different perspective. There's different animals, there's different wildlife, there's different organisms that are kind of going on there. And for some of you, perhaps this is just that it's variable. It changes depending on which part of your subconscious or your conscious or your super subconscious you're drawn into in order to navigate this information. It's kind of like this feeling of, regardless, you're not checking out. I kind of feel like lost in that energy a little bit. So let's just kind of try and simplify this, please. But it's like a future vision is there. Some of this you have control over, some of it you don't, but how you move through the water, how you move through life, if you can connect to your intuition, come into this space of acceptance, create that beautiful loving support all around you from multiple different directions, you can move through this in a way where that higher perspective actually allows for you to change your relationship to the journey, meaning that emotionally you're not feeling frustrated, burnt out. It can also start to change your sleep, calm down the mind and the rumination, and will give you this opportunity to let go of these perceptions of how you might have perceived life should have been, could have been, would have been if. So we accept the truth of what is. That's actually a really powerful thing. And it might feel like you have a little mini like death and rebirth experience in like the 3rd week of March, where you come into this space where I'm sensing more energy, more vitality, and this space where you're able to look forward with a new sense of positivity. And that comes from that beautiful, majestic space as well, where you're tapping into that higher perspective and you're asking those questions. What is this challenge teaching me? What is life showing me right now? So as we cast off questions into the universe, we're doing so as well very mindfully. Not why me, why is this happening to me? It might be, what is this teaching me? How can I best work with this today? What perspective serves me? These kinds of questions, because we're imagining the universe outside of our own auric field as something we can have a conversation with. Conversation feels really healing here as well, even just to get your words out. If you don't want to talk to other people, write them down. Maybe you do need to go and speak to somebody. I'm offering mentoring at the moment. That might be a nice space to come into. It's different to readings. I'm more in a listening experience and empowering you to tap into your own inner voice, and we kind of just go more with the flow. You can find that information on my website if that's something that feels like it's calling you in some way. Now, I want to look to this alternative perspective of this, and this might even be an energy that if you have been having this experience, you might arrive at this space where I'm kind of feeling the other side of the kidneys or the other end of the spectrum. So perhaps even those around you, there's like a whole nother kettle of fish here that are having this brand new awakening, this new beginning experience. That is far more of a baby energy. I saw it previously as like a little baby foal or like a baby deer that comes into this new space, and I'm seeing it as a lamb right now that comes into this brand new space where there's all this like new information and shapes and with this kind of beginner's luck kind of feeling. Again, like a little more vitality. There's like a burst of energy that's kind of like, bugger it, let's just give it a shot. If you've been struggling with social media and your presence there and that's part of your business, you might find a little bit of a boost here. But I'm going to super duper encourage you to work very intentionally. And because this is such a big energy and there's so much opportunity here with this brand new beginning experience, that your intention is the part that kind of creates the riverbed for the water to flow or for life to flow down. You don't have to take full control over this experience, but there's so much room for your own intention. I love the affirmation. Every day I set the intention to align with my purpose. That's been something I've been finding really helpful. But this is like baseline organization stuff, making sure you actually have a structure that you're following, right from your, your exercise routines through to the time that you might sit down just to read a book for a little while. I feel like you're able to multitask with this energy a little bit, but too much fluidity, you might find that you get to the end of the month and you're kind of like, oh, I feel like I've done so much, but I don't really have any evidence of that experience. So a really beautiful time as well, not only just with intention, but actually ritual practices, and to be working with magic. I kind of feel like this beautiful element here of like paganism. I'm seeing more people working with the plants, with the animals, with the trees, with this earthly element that's really needed to ground a lot of this incredible kind of cosmic energy that's coming through. So even just working with the essences of plants and creating little pockets of beauty throughout your home where this kind of sense of tranquility comes to ground this really big and loud kind of I'd say like downloads that have been coming in. Sometimes with a download, it can be, the hardest part can be getting started. So I encourage you just to tuck little sections aside, grab a pen and paper. It really helps to ground this down, especially if you've just had lots of ideas floating around. You might put it down on paper and kind of have a look at it and go, oh, hold on a second, I don't even think that's for me. But that's really nice recognition. You probably just grounded it into the earth grids, but you might look at other stuff and go, but that's something I really want to focus on here. I sort of feel like this is more of an essence to those of you who are in service to humanity. I'm going to say this is for mothers and fathers, those who almost are in a position where their priority has been on other people prior to themselves first. And there's kind of like a shifting or being able to almost like be in both spaces where you can prioritize yourself, and in prioritizing yourself, you're prioritizing the lives of other people. It's like you've known that before, but you can really feel it in your body now. I also sense there's this feeling of like prioritizing things that weren't important before, like joy, being really intentional with joy. I also feel like part of this is social and in new connections and in different types of relationships. So if you're a hermit like me, it might be that your relationships, mine seem to be growing a lot in the spiritual world. I've found that there's just a whole lot of new different characters and beings and guides and just so much more to explore. I feel like this is not just a faye experience. I feel like this is a collective pattern. Like there's untapped resources when it comes to relationships in the spiritual planes where there are so many different beings that are here to develop relationships with us that can really help support us in our journey and help us support other people too. So if invocation isn't a part of your life, but you're really tapped in spiritually and you're living intuitively guided, it's something that I would really prod you to at least bring some curiosity around. For a lot of you, you can be afraid to invoke because you might not have developed your psychic senses enough to have that discernment to know whom it is that you're talking to. But again, that's something that we need to be able to learn. So you could join my House of Mystics. The waitlist is open. We start that again in October. Invocation is something that I will teach, but even getting curious about what your fears are in regards to that can help you sort of start to bring some motion in that. And in this beautiful elevation that you're experiencing, I do kind of sense as well that there is this feeling of things that are stuck and stagnant or you haven't been able to move through, you can start to kind of like loop around right now. And this looping around is not something I want you to feel overwhelmed in. It's just like it's time to actually transform this experience. The fears are a really big one. I saw this before. This is for both kind of kettles of fish that we spoke about before. Our fears are our work. Our fears are our invitations. Give them a picture. Give them like I'm seeing them today as like little rabbits. So you can see the rabbits and you can see all these little fears, and in your garden where you're working, where you're tending to, you have all these little rabbits that raise their heads, and instead of pretending that they're not there, and in time they just eat all of the plants and they keep on breeding and it gets bigger and bigger until you've got nothing left. You understand the nature of it. You understand, you give it the presence and the attention. You might give it a little bit of food and then you release it somewhere else, or whatever it is that you end up doing. But you know, it's sort of something when it gets out of hand, it can break down the structures of our life, or it's creating our life anyway. So I want to encourage you to build a really healthy relationship with fear. I've said this before, get to know its texture, get to know its color, get to know how it symbolically presents itself to you. We're able to create with our visual space. Use a rabbit if it works for you. And that you see a rabbit or feel a rabbit or sense a rabbit in your own life as a fear surfaces in your body and your being, and to know that this is a point of celebration. So I don't want you to look at experiences that manifest as that you might perceive as negative right now as a bad thing. You look at it as an invitation to take that higher perspective, to get really super neutral and have a look at seeing how you can transmute this energy. Oh, clairvoyance. I think we're back here. And it's funny because I got quiet about clairvoyance for a little while, but I think that there's a lot of conversation and discussion coming through when it comes to imagination, dream spaces, visions, projections, illusions, the trickster energy, things that come within this domain. That bird's eye view, being able to see in the dark. These are experiences that are in our foresight right now, in our forefront, where there's going to be a lot of momentum and excitement and questions that act as a way to be able to, if you're over here, see the light at the end of the tunnel, to create light in the darkness so that you continue to move through, but also to bring us these spiritual insights, the symbology, the nature of life, new relationships with the astral plane, the dream plane, or you know, it's all the same space. I kind of feel like this adds a really beautiful and exciting and joyful element to our lives right now as a collective. So even reading fiction books or writing fictional stories or telling stories to your children, that could be something that brings a lot of joy for you right now. I love the idea of storytelling. I kind of feel like that comes into the ritual space, telling your own story. I feel like this is something that can give you like big boosts of momentum forward, because you're able to kind of let go of the chains of the past. Don't be afraid to share parts of your experiences, and to know that sometimes in the sharing of your experience, another layer of wisdom can come through for you. Okay. Just having a look through March. I'm just having a look to see if there's anything else here. Things that are old and outdated are going to start to feel like really overwhelming. I'm almost seeing like, I've noticed this at home, like I have like a few spiders and I love the spiders in my house, but then I'm like, they sort of start to be like there's almost like a too muchness there, and I don't need to kill them all, but I do need to put some attention and some energy into like moving them outside, and that's because of the seasons and all of the rest of it. But it's almost like small doses of some things are really beautiful, but we have the tendency right now to overdo things, for things to get out of control really quickly. This can be like if you've overcome an addiction and you think, oh, it's okay, I'll just have a couple of drinks, or you know, it's just a one night off. I feel like these are the experiences that can spiral us really quickly right now into a paradigm that you are finished with and done with. I want you to approach the cravings for something or the wanting to overindulge as a pocket of information that's got something to show you and teach you, where you actually had this opportunity to practice self-control and not be almost like manipulated by your own emotional body. I think this comes to like desire and pleasure. I'm coming to like the mouth a lot of these like self-soothing pieces, especially if you've had a challenging time with sleep or there's been loss, whether that's loved ones or relationships or a life as you knew it. There's this feeling of like wanting to soothe or wanting to comfort, and I do understand the nature of that, but could we ask the question, what's a healthier alternative for me right now? Am I avoiding discomfort? Is there something else here for me to see? What happens if I don't? If I don't do this and I just come into stillness, or I go into a movement practice, or I just sit with my breath, what actually happens in that space? And as an alternative, Spirit are kind of offering the practice of getting really big, like actually expanding your energy. You can do this physically if you're not a practice meditator. Perhaps this is going down to the beach or finding a big field and allowing your energy to get huge, extend across the whole ocean, extend the length of the beach. If you can't do that physically, you can do it in your mind's eye. Use your imagination to expand and get really, really big, and notice that in the bigness and in the taking up space versus feeling like you have to concentrate and get really small and hone in on these teeny tiny weeny fleeting little pleasures, that there can be great bliss in this expansion and in a reorganization that can take place in your energy when you're connecting with, say, the water and the earth and the breeze and your breath and the fullness of your body, right? We're not escaping, we're getting down really deep, but we're extending up really high. And I think if you can feel into expansion versus retraction, it's like the byproduct is the bliss that you were looking for, but it's more sustainable because you don't need anything from your external environment in order to give you this kind of sense of satisfaction here. I'm curious, a couple of cards fell on the ground. Oh, that's freedom. And I love this. This is what fell out. It's like the honeybees, right? Like it's toward the light, and I sense that this gives you freedom out of this, these patterns or cycles of addiction or things that you felt previously like you don't have any control over. This can also be negative mindsets, looping, procrastination cycles, things that kind of come up where you felt like I just don't have control over this situation, or I've been trying for so long and it doesn't seem to work for me. This can be something that transforms in home and relationships too. And this is going to be the last thing that I kind of have a look into as I'm seeing the book and they're just opening this for me. Just intending to slow down the information a little bit too. Okay, so we've got keys and we've got doorways. I'm looking at the base chakra, I'm looking at the sacral chakra, and the arrival into the solar plexus. So a transition into a new sense of confidence and self-worth and a deeper connection to your own inner power. So it can feel quite like a bit of an eye-focused month, even if your intention is to be of service to humanity. It's like the real work gets done through your own devotion to your own heart, spirit, soul, contracts here on earth. I don't explain all of that to you. Prioritize yourself, please. This transition and the change that's taking place in these first few centers, we want to understand that they have a great connection to the physical plane. So it would be very normal right now to see shifts and changes through group, tribe, home, living experiences and arrangements, family relationships, your intimate relationships, those with one other, your sensuality, your sexual expression, your creativity, your life force energy, and the themes that kind of govern these two domains, you and group, you and tribe, and then you and one other, so you and your intimate spaces, are going through a change that doesn't necessarily need you to move the pieces on the chessboard. Some of this feels very karmic, and I'm actually seeing the karmic board come through here, symbolically presented as the chessboard. It can be that some of these experiences need to be lived out, some conversations need to be had. It's like pieces are being put where they need to be put. You're being ushered into a different space here, and a lot of this is comes back to trust. It comes back to faith. it can feel like you kind of can be cut off from that higher perspective that we get from the upper sections of our body and our being, which is where we don't want to be draining our own power or abandoning ourselves or leaving our body in any way. But we do have this invitation or want or need or even desire to raise our own vibration in this experience. So remind yourself that external environment is not who you are. We make the changes and the transformation within. What can I let go of here? What expectations do I have of myself, of life, of source that are outdated? I actually feel like if there's a shift here, great enough, the things that you've been asking for when it comes to romance, when it comes to the relationship to yourself, your own power, your own inner confidence, can come to fruition very quickly. And I feel by April, perhaps some of you are in brand new relationships, in brand new homes, in entering into new community spaces and having deeper connections with those one-on-one kind of scenarios. And again, this can be spiritual in nature, like connecting with your guides or something for the first time, or then it doesn't have to be just a physical piece here. It's funny because I kind of feel like a rumbling as well. The rumbling can be like an earthquake. We can have energetic earthquakes that purge things out of the ground, that create opportunities. Ooh, but look what was hiding underneath, for a bit of a tidy up here. So karma can be one of those things sometimes we just need to be present to allow the forces and nature to come through and make these changes. And for some of you, that's I surrender. I surrender to my higher self's will in every way. I surrender my ego to my higher self's will in every way. I surrender to love. I surrender to my purpose. I surrender to what is here for me. The peacock I often see symbolically is about becoming your true self. A wild and kind of, I don't know, untamed was the word that wanted to come out of my mouth, but then I felt like that kind of wasn't right. It didn't do it justice enough. It didn't feel smooth enough. But this wild energy that is so unique and beautiful, yet odd, and it doesn't need to fit in order to be who you are. I think perhaps that's some of the reassessment of tribe as well. Just having a look to see if we can tidy this off, please. I want to ask you personally, what does the moth mean to you? Some people initially can feel kind of creeped out by moths because they leave like a funny little dust, or, you know, they put holes in things, but they're actually quite incredible. I'd like you to invite you, without giving you the information, some things we look at and perceive only the shadow side of. I want to invite you to start to take that higher perspective and start to have a look at the role that a moth actually plays in society. Where's its contribution? Where does that fit into the cycle of life? And can you have a look at the light side of this animal? Can you have a look at the light side of the situation? Not as a bypass, but to balance where we've been putting too much energy, I'm going to say, into the negativity, or where we've swum so deep into the subconscious that parts of us can feel like I'm deep enough that I don't know which way's up or which way's down now. And so direction comes in as something that can connect to your intentionality this month, meaning, am I intending to stay here in the moment? Am I intending for momentum forward? Am I intending for expansion? Am I intending to go backwards to discover why it is that I'm here now, so that I can apply this wisdom? Just bring about this experience with direction. And I want to see if you can separate direction from time. This is really interesting as I'm watching this, because for some of you, you're looking at the clock for direction. Like you're looking for days, you're looking for hours, you're looking for minutes, you're looking for moments. And for others, you're experiencing like a 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5th-dimensional, 6th-dimensional experience of where time becomes more of a directional experience, where it's like you can be in multiple different places all at one time. But sometimes that, let me just wrap this up, simplify this for me, please. I want you to be aware of what direction you are sending your energy in. Sometimes it's not always forward focused. We have a little bit of a plan and then we let it go. ultimately it all comes back to the present moment. If we are igniting the intuition, that's where the intuition speaks, and that's the guidance that's going to take you along your service work path, along your heart's path. It's going to help you fulfill your soul's mission, that will bring about the opportunity for a continuous fluidity, to be able to work around and with and through stagnancy, in relationship to this higher perspective of life. That kind of goes beyond time in some sense. Time is still a part of this, and it's not as a bypass, but you're not limited by time. And I think that's something that we need to build a bit of a relationship with. Time connects us to a lot of these lower parts of the body and the being. The moment we sort of start to come into these higher spaces, we do actually start to move beyond that, the limitations of that. So not only do we get to a space where we can be in the past, the future, and the present all in one time as this beautiful, big, expanded energy, this universe that you are, you can be really specific about which perspective you're taking, which point you are locating, but also with the movement of your life. And if your direction is upward because you're here to raise your vibration, this is a really important piece of information. It needs to be a part of your intention. Look out for these as symbols throughout the month. Dragonflies, whether you're seeing them physically, whether you see them in your mind's eye, this is a really great confirmation message for a lot of you. I think for some of you too, this can be confirmation for those on the other side. For some reason, I'm feeling like this connection to the astral plane, to past loved ones, to mediumship, to getting messages from the spirit plane. So if you do see a dragonfly, if this comes into your awareness, I'm just going to invite you to stop, pause, close your eyes, connect with your heart. Just ask yourself, what is the message of the moment? What's for my higher self to receive right now? How could I contribute? Yeah, beautiful. So nice to see you all. I know I've been a little bit slack when it comes to jumping on here and doing a month by month. I'm doing the best that I can. I look forward to hopefully seeing you next month, if not when I get the inspiration to be back here. If you do have any questions, please pop them down below. I'd love to hear from you. All of your engagement really helps me here, not only on YouTube, but across sort of all of those platforms. There's some new offerings on my new website, which I'll link below. That means that you can come do some mentoring. You can add yourself to the Psychic Development School, the waitlist. There's spots there for readings, little practices, all sorts of different things. So I'm excited to be here in this number 3, January, February, March. Yes, with this kind of brand new beginning. I hope this perspective supports you. If it doesn't resonate, just chuck it away. That's what we're here for. I love you. I'll speak to you soon.